Now we come to 2026 and everything is telling me I need to think about a new wind synthesizer. There's a new kid on the block, the Synth. This is from an American company, Ashen Sound Machines, or ASM. ASM make a successful range of keyboard synthesizers called Hydrasynths, and they put that engine as a wind controller with proper lever-style keys like the old Yamaha WX models. It's a similar sort of price to the A30. Roland has just brought out a flute-style instrument as well, the Aerophone Breezer. I did consider this, but reviews suggested these early ones had reliability problems. Also, even though I do play the flute, I find holding that transverse position uncomfortable for a while. So apart from that, the Roland AE30 still looks good, even though I did reject a Roland Aerophone before. Well, I studied review after review, and some favoured the AE30, some favoured the Synth. Well, I wasn't going to spend in excess of £1,000 on something without trying it out, but where to find a shop that stocks them? Roland have a shop in London, but they're not going to stock the Synth. The nearest place where I could find both was Gear for Music. They are primarily mail order, but they have a big, beautiful showroom on an industrial estate in York. York's rather a long way from where I live, but in May of 2026 I was booked in to attend a 3-day church conference in Harrogate, which is only half an hour from York. So I went up a day early and spent the afternoon in Gear for Music's shop trying out both of them. Yes, the Synth has some nice key work, but disappointingly the keys just didn't fit my fingers at all. In the end, I went with the Roland AE30. I also took the Espresso with me and a MIDI cable, and it seemed to work much better with the AE30 than it had with the Silphio. So that's something for future consideration. So what do you get when you buy a Roland AE30? From the top down, there's a mouthpiece cap. Mine is very loose, it falls off if you just brush against it. The mouthpiece itself is removable for cleaning. It's just plastic, so you can wash it with soap and water. I've put a mouthpiece pad for a saxophone on mine. And there's this sort of fake reed put here that pushes against that lever to give you bite control. Let us put that back on because it's very delicate. Just south of that, there's this miniature sweatband. It's supposed to soak up any spit running down the outside of the instrument in case you dribble while you play. It seems to be standard on all new wind synthesizers. I don't think I'll need it there. Next, on the shoulders of the instrument are these two little loudspeakers. They have their uses, but they're not much good for playing for other people to hear. When I tried it out in my Harrogate hotel room, I got much better sound from the cheap earbuds I use with my iPod. There's a rubber cover for the sub-thumb rest. You actually get two of them in different sizes, so use whichever one suits you best and try not to lose the other one. Down here at the bottom are the MIDI connectors and a 1/4-inch stereo jack socket for line level output. So no wireless unless you use one of those RF guitar transceivers, in which case you've got another 2 battery powered devices to go flat at the worst possible moment. Right at the bottom is this thing which the manual calls a water basin. It's a rubber bucket for all the condensation or spit that comes down through the instrument. I've seen one review where they complained it falls off too easily, but mine seems quite firmly attached. Maybe the other guy's mouthpiece cap stays on better. Or you can leave the thing off and drip on the floor like you do when you play a proper wind instrument or a DH100 or a Silphio. There is a USB-C cable with a right angle socket to connect it to your computer or to use with a DAW, a digital audio workstation. You've probably got several of these kicking around at home, but Roland gives you another. There's also this mains adapter, which you probably won't want to use if you play standing up. The cable's only 6 feet long, so you can't stray very far from a main socket, and it doesn't work to charge the batteries. You have to take them out and put them in a charger. Finally, it comes with this nice padded gig bag with a nice big pocket on the side for all your bits and pieces. So that's what the Roland Aerophone AE30 comes with. Oh, and there's a lot it doesn't come with. There's no sling or strap to go around your neck to support the weight of the thing. If you play sax, you've probably got one that will do, but you're going to end up getting a separate one to go in the bag with the AE30. Otherwise, you're going to get the sax out one day, and remember, the sling's not in the case. The Sylphia was light enough not to need one, but even my Casio DH100 came in with a sling. There's no stand, which is true for any wind instrument, though the Deosynth does come with a stand. A conventional flute or saxophone stand won't do, but if you search online for Iwi stand, you'll find a suitable one. This is mine, it cost about 20 quid. There's no jack cable, which is a nuisance, but then if you play any musical instrument, electric instrument, you've probably got one or two lying around. But the output from the AE30 is stereo, so I got this one. It's got a stereo jack plug one end and two mono ones the other. The idea is when I'm playing in the church band, one side goes into the DI box with the PA, the other goes into my foldback app. And what about software updates? As soon as you get the thing home, you ought to go onto Roland's website and check for the latest update. Installing it? Oh, you can't just plug the USB socket into your computer. You have to have a USB memory stick formatted FAT32. You put the upgrade file on the root directory and plug it into your AE30. Again, if you've got a computer, you've probably got a few of these lying around. The annoying thing, though, is the socket on the AE30 is USB-C, and your memory stick will have a USB-A adapter. So you need to find an adapter to do the update. It also doesn't come with batteries or a battery charger. You need 6 AA batteries and probably another 6 to spare. There's quite a shopping list of things to find or buy before you can start playing the AE30. I also got a few other things. I bought this amplifier to go with it. The model is Vision Amp, sold by Gear for Music. You need something with more bass than a guitar amp, and this one is marketed for keyboards and electric drums. It costs less than £100 and is 50 watts. It's fairly compact and I like it, and it's loud enough so I can hear what I'm playing even if I'm standing next to the other saxophonist. For playing at home, I use this monster that I built about 30 years ago and currently replaced the electronics with a valve amp kit from Cricklewood Electronics in North London. Nice big speaker, good bass response. The last thing I bought was this. It's a retainer. I got it from my dentist. Unlike a saxophone, which balances quite nicely on the sling in your right thumb, the AE30 is not well balanced. It's heavy at the bottom, so it pushes upward on your front teeth, at least when it's got batteries installed. Now, my poor old front teeth are a bit fragile, so I got my dentist to make up this to spread the load. That was probably the most expensive add-on I had to get. One more thing, that pocket on the gig bag is pretty big, and some of the bits and pieces are rather small, so to stop them getting lost, I have this pencil case for putting all the small stuff in, spare batteries, USB memory stick, dental retainers, that sort of thing. So that's my shopping list of extras I had to get. Some, like rechargeable batteries and a stand, fair enough, but others, like a USB adapter and a sling, Roland, I really think you ought to have included those. So how does the AE30 compare with the other two? Well, the DH100 and the Sylphia both emulate a recorder with the addition of that G-sharp key. Each has a simple mouthpiece with no bite control or anything like that. But with the AE30, there's a big jump. The mouthpiece, again removable for cleaning, has this fake reed, which is used for bite control, and a cover which falls off as soon as you look at it. The keys are very different from the other two. The DH100 has metal keys, Silphio has plastic touchpads, and both are pretty recorderish in layout. The AE30 has buttons, but they pretty much replicate what you'll find on a saxophone, with all the extra pinky and knuckle and palm keys. If we look at the AE30 side by side with my sax, you can see the parallels. So if you play a sax, you'll feel at home with the AE30. I found the buttons mostly well placed and only occasionally struggled to find one or two of the pinky keys, unlike the Diasynth, which didn't work for my hands at all. On the back, we've got a home position pad for the left thumb, and buttons for 2 octaves up and 2 octaves down. That gives you 5 octaves like the Silphio, but it's a lot less of a stretch to get at the bottom ones. There are also these tiny buttons called S1 and S2, which do different things depending on the sound, that is, the scene that you've got selected. For the right thumb, there's a hook to support the instruments, like on a sax or the DH100, and under it is this pressure pad which controls things like growl, again depending on what scene you have selected. At the suggestion of a video by Alistair Parnell, I reduced the sensitivity on that one. Then just over here there's a rocker which controls pitch bend up and down, not something I think I'm going to use very much. Down at the bottom we have 2 12-way rotary switches, one for transpose, which is easy to get at, perhaps too easy as it's possible to knock it accidentally and not know what key you're playing in. The other one is to select the scene category, that is the bank of sounds you want to select from. If you remember, the DH100 listed its 6 sounds on the back. In a similar way, the AE30 lists its 12 scene categories on the back of the battery cover. So the DH100 gave you 6 sounds, the Silphio 46, the Roland gives you 393, split over 12 categories with space for I don't know how many more. Roland call their scenes, their sounds, their scenes, their patches, they call them scenes, as each one may comprise more than one instrument. So if you select the bank, with the rotary switch, then up by the sling loop there are up and down buttons which allow you to step through all the sounds in the bank. The other side of the sling loop are the 3 buttons that allow you to navigate through the different menu options for the thing, among other things to change the sensitivity of that pressure pad under the right thumb. Well, the DH100 and Silphio both start up pretty much instantaneously, but the AE30 does take its time, around 12 seconds, more like the TX81Z, but not nearly as long as the Espresso. And that's your AE30. Lots more to it than the Silphio, let alone the Casio DH100. Well, I did rather like the Silphio's minimalist approach, the shape of vibrato and the wirelessness, but I'm learning to love the AE30, especially as it's a fairly accurate emulation of a saxophone's key layout with a few extra buttons on the bank, and it does sound good. Roland have incorporated 2 sound engines. There's Zen Core, which is for their synthetic sounds, and Supernatural for sample sounds from acoustic instruments. If you play a saxophone, you should find the fingering very easy to get on with, which I think was Roland's design intent. For flute players who like to play sideways, they've got another instrument out called the Aerophone Breezer, which looks a bit like a flute and costs a bit more than the AE30. As I said in an earlier video, I thought about getting one of these, but early models seem to be having reliability problems, and anyway, I find playing like that a bit of a strain after a while. But if you're a dyed-in-the-wool flute player looking to branch out into synthesized sounds, you should definitely check out the Breezer. As I mentioned before, the only thing I'm finding difficult with the Aerophone AE30 is the balance of it when you've got it on a sling. Playing sitting down, not a problem because you can rest it on your knee, but when you play standing up, there's so much weight low down where the batteries are that the mouthpiece pushes up quite hard on your front upper teeth. The mouthpiece pad does soften it, and the dental retainer spreads the load, but it's still a bit of a struggle getting used to. I haven't tried, but it may be better on the cheaper AE10 and AE20 models, which are both shorter, and so maybe the balance is better. Okay, so what about those 393 sounds? Well, we'll look at those in the next video.